And welcome back to Clear Skies Retirement with Jay Kirkwood at Secure Financial Management. My name is Randy Cook, and each week Jay and I sit down here and talk through some of the issues that go along with retirement planning. And a lot of people have a lot of questions when it comes to that. And Jay, you are the guy who they come to with all those questions, aren't you?
Yeah, and I love answering them, Randy.
Yeah, we invite everybody to come on in, and that really is why we have this show, is kind of to introduce people to you and say there is help out there, and you probably don't want to go this alone, because sometimes you'll get to age 70 and go, gee, I didn't know that, and look at the fix I'm in right now, because we don't want that.
Yeah, it's not a do-over situation, is it?
No, not at all. And we want to make sure that we get this correct on the first time around. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk through some of the things that people walk into retirement and they think are true, but sometimes they are not. You know, my mother-in-law used to say to me, if you point at somebody, there's three fingers pointing back at you. If you assume something, you know the old saying there. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. Go Banking Rates put together a list of things that people assume about retirement that may or may not be true. So here they are. I'm going to run through them real fast, and then we'll hit them one at a time here. You assume you're not going to live into your 90s. Oh, you don't have to plan for me that long. I'll never live that long. You assume that you're going to stay healthy. You assume that your expenses will be the same today as they are 20 or 25 years from now. You assume the markets are going to do exactly what they're doing right now. You assume that inflation will remain low. You assume that if you want to go back to work, yeah, I could do that. And you assume you'll get an inheritance. So there's some tripwires there, aren't there?
No kidding. No kidding.
All right. So let's start with the first one. How many times have you planned out for somebody to live to age 95 and they look at you and go, I'll never live that long. What are you doing here, Jay?
Yeah. See, it's interesting you say 95, because that's actually where we plan out to.
Okay.
When we're doing our retirement planning, we plan to 95. And this is the way I approach it with people. I'm like, yeah, look, it's a stretch. I get it. But it's scary to not plan that far out. And if you do get there, know that you've got no plan beyond that, right? It's a scary thing to do. And I think I've told you this story before, but I'll just tell it real quick. Most of these things you're bringing up, we've got real life examples that we've dealt with in the retirement planning space. We had a couple, when did they retire? 17, 18, a while ago, right? So we did the planning to 95, and she said, oh, this is ridiculous. Like, plan us out to 75. Like, and she I'll give her this. She was pretty realistic about her situation. She's like, we're fat, we're smokers, we're not going to make it to 95. I was like, okay, all right, you're the boss, right? Whatever. Well, I was like, all right, clearly, this is not a recommendation from us. If you want 75, that's what we'll plan for. Well, now, almost 10 years later, 8 years later, let's say, they're a lot closer to 75. And it's getting a little bit more realistic that, well, geez, what if we make 75? What happens then? And fortunately, their investments have done well. Things have worked in their favor. So we've got a bit of extra time. But that's a great example of, don't shortchange yourself too much on life, because if you get there and you don't have the money for it, it's a real problem.
Yeah, I have a friend whose father said at age 75, he was kind of bummed out. He said, well, I guess this is my last car. He was buying a car. This is going to be my last car. And he is on his third last car. He's well over 90 now. I don't know that he's driving anymore, but he had three last cars. So that's one assumption that people make that could be damaging to you. The next one is, I've always been kind of healthy. I'm a healthy guy. I don't have cancer in my family, all these different things. And I'll probably remain healthy. And, sometimes that just doesn't work out, does it?
Well, it's not. I mean, just look at the statistics, right? There's a certain percentage of people that are going to end up in long-term care. There's a certain number of us that are going to get pretty sick in retirement. There isn't a way around it, unfortunately. Hopefully you're not the one that it happens to, but the odds are not in everyone's favor, unfortunately. Yeah,
and even if it's something simple like, hip replacements, these things happen. I know a lot of people with them, and all of a sudden you've got to have railings and you've got to have bars in the shower and all these different things. It's just a part of aging, and it's something that we've got to deal with. Next one on the list is my expenses will decrease. I'm going to be in retirement. I'm not going to spend that much. So this $7,000 a month that you've got me, that should take me till 95.
Yeah, I have dozens of people I can refer you to if you'd like that have not had that experience when they thought that they would. And you know what? I'll tie this answering this question into, I think one of the other ones you mentioned, was it like stock market returns, stable or something like that, right? We had a guy, it was before COVID. I can't remember exactly when it was, but before COVID. And he's a do-it-yourselfer, and usually we're better now at filtering those people out, because like we can't really help them. You know, like they want a couple of questions answered, and retirement planning is a multi-decade relationship, right? So anyway, he came in. I was like, all right, sit down, bud. We'll talk for half an hour, and I'll do whatever I can to help you out now that you're here. And he was young. He was like 53, and he wanted to retire at 55, which, you know, most people can't, but some people can if they've done a really great job at saving. And he'd done a pretty good job of saving. And he just had it all on an Excel spreadsheet, and he was showing it to me. And after doing thousands of plans at this stage, right, over decades, you get a bit of a rough idea just looking at somebody's information on the surface, right? How old are they? How much income do they need in retirement? What assets do we have to work with? And you get a rough idea of, are we in the ballpark here, or is this just not realistic? And I was looking at this guy's spreadsheet, right, that he was showing me. And he said, you know, I think I look really good, just I'm not sure what I might be missing. And I was looking at the raw data, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. I can't figure out how he's getting these results on the output when these are the inputs that are going in, right? And then finally I asked him, I said, okay, well, what inflation rate are you using, or what increase in retirement income, you know, are you using over the years? And remember, this is before COVID, right? So we'd gone through a period of basically zero inflation. And that was the number he was using. Well, there's been no inflation, so I'm not adding anything. And I said, all right, that's probably an issue. And, you know, fast forward, 4 or 5 years, we come into 2022 and we get hit with inflation, right? So huge hole in his plan. The second one was, after looking at it a little bit more, I said, all right, well, what rate of return are you assuming you can get? And when we do our planning, we deliberately use a lower rate of return than we think people will get. Like, you want these safety rails, right? Like, you want to be showing, well, this is what I would want. I would want someone to show me something where everything doesn't have to be perfect and spot on all the time for this to work, and any unexpected problem is a catastrophe, right? I don't want to be showing a plan like that. I want to be showing something that's subdued and probably will be better than what we're planning for, right? And so with the return, I said, all right, what rate of return are you using? He said, well, 16%. And I said, all right, well, where did you get that from? He's like, well, that's what I got in my 401k last year, so I thought I'd use it. I was like, probably another big problem there. So I don't know whatever happened to the guy. I never saw him again. But expecting to just have knockout returns all the time, expecting costs to never go up, you're going to have a disappointment in your retirement.
The other thing I think about, too, is kind of on the positive side, too, is you get into retirement, you're going to take some trips. They're going to be weekend trips. You're going to go on, you know, maybe you'll go to Europe, maybe you do that kind of stuff, too. But you might find that beautiful place on the coast, and you say, I don't just want to spend 2 weeks here. I want to spend a month here. I want to spend a month and a half here. And all of a sudden, that expense that you didn't know about all of a sudden becomes a part of what you are in retirement. And you're going to explore new things, and you may find new things that you really like. And so your expenses in retirement, don't assume that they're always going to be the same.
Or it might be this situation, Randy. I flew up and saw one of our clients in Tulsa a few months ago. And he was in San Antonio and like retired basically in Tulsa. And when I flew up and had lunch with him, I was like, hey, how'd you end up in Tulsa? Like, is it family or something you came back for? He said, well, our only daughter lives in Tulsa, and we wanted to come back and be close to her and her family. And he said, and they've only been there a couple of years. He said, and on that note, they're moving to Delaware now after we relocated our lives here. And I said, you're not going to go and buy something in Delaware now and follow her, because she could move again, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, no. Like, we're going to stay here. Now, we might buy something there and go and spend the summers and, you know, Airbnb it the rest of the time. But look, those are the things that you don't know are going to happen in life.
Yep. Expenses will change. Inflation will change. Markets will change. Don't assume that all those things are going to stay constant. You're listening to Clear Skies Retirement with Jay Kirkwood. We're going through a list here of things that people assume are going to happen in retirement. I won't live into my 90s. You don't have to plan that far. I'll be healthy. I'll be just like I am right now. My expenses probably will be just like they are now. They won't actually increase. Maybe they'll even decrease. Markets will stay constant. Inflation will stay constant. None of that stuff usually happens. Next one on the list is, you know what? If I want to go back to work, I'll go back to work. I'm a pretty smart guy. They loved me at my work all those years. I should be able to do that. How many people have you seen actually go back to work in their 70s in their same career?
Not in their 70s. So right now, we're helping out a lot of people that are going through layoffs, right? And they're getting severance packages, so that there's something there. But look, most of these people are mid to late 50s, maybe early 60s. And that's always the conversation we have with our planning is, all right, is this it? Are you mentally ready to retire as well? Or do you want to go back and do something? And they said, well, maybe I want to go back and do something for like 20 hours a week, something simple. I wouldn't mind going to Home Depot, or I wouldn't mind going to Costco. And if you're late 50s and your response is, yeah, maybe for a little while, by the time you get to 70, that is, heck no, I'm not going back to work.
I'm done with that, yeah.
And hey, the phrase I always say is, Randy, there's only so many Walmart greeter positions, right?
That's right.
That they're hiring for.
That's exactly right. You can be starter at the golf course, but they only need so many of those too. All right, last one on the list here is you assume that you're going to get an inheritance. And basing your retirement on something that may or may not come true is probably a bit of a risk. But, as you mentioned in this list here, people go into long-term care. Right. Your parents may have a lot of money, and some of that's going to come your way, but you can't count on the fact that their elder years' expenses won't eat all that stuff up. And that's a real thing happening today, isn't it?
Yeah, so they might need that money, and
look, they should have that money.
I'm of the opinion nobody should count on inheritance, right? And I don't think you're owed one either. If you get one, great, right? But you shouldn't count on it, and if you get it, it's a cherry on top. Okay, great. This happens in real life. We have clients, and it's not just necessarily healthcare, Randy. So we have some clients. Again, most of our clients have been with us for a long time. They're retired, and their plan was to front load their retirement spending at a much faster pace than they should have, and they knew they were going to run out of money around now. But their safety net was, don't worry, like our parents have got quite a bit of money, and we're each going to inherit maybe $1 million or so from each of our parents. And I said, all right, look, again, that's not a financial planning strategy you should rely on. Right. Again, that's what I always say. No, you shouldn't do that. You're the boss. We'll run this however you want, right? Well, their parents are still alive. And that's the problem. It's in their calculation, they should have been dead by now. But the parents are not agreeing with that calculation. And it's not a long-term care situation. That's the problem. They're actually pretty healthy, and they're going to keep going probably for a bit longer. Yeah. So they're in a bit of a spot, right? Is they thought they'd have an inheritance by now. And, it's not just do the parents need it, or whoever you're getting the inheritance from, right? Are they going to need it for healthcare costs? It's very possible. And if they don't, when is this event going to actually take place? Well, we don't know that either.
And that's hard to plan around, so we probably shouldn't put it in the plan. Many times you say, hey, if we plan for 5% and the market gives us 7 or 10,
great,
it's a bonus. If you don't get your inheritance, okay. If you do, it's a bonus. So
exactly,
these are assumptions. So many people come into retirement thinking one thing and then finding out another. And that is really what we talk about when we sit down and say, okay, let's go through things. Let's go through our 5-step process. Let's go through what you've done to save, what your needs are, and the budgeting and all that goes along with that. That's really where the rubber meets the road here, is doing the math on your retirement. And let's control the things we can control, and then the things that we can't control, let's plan as best we can for those things. give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Our website is real easy. It's retire210.com. Pretty easy. Retire210.com. And when you get to the website, you'll see down at the bottom of the page there, you'll see Jay's book, and then you'll see a place where you can put some information in there. We'd love to send you that book out. And then we'll give you a call and say, okay, what's on your mind? What are you concerned about? What kind of questions do you have? How might we be able to help? And that may lead us to sitting down and actually putting the papers out on the table. Retire210.com or 210-985-6200. 210-985-6200. Well, we talk about the stock market, which is going along pretty good right now, but there's always people out there that are worried that it's going to go down. Well, I found an interesting quote here from the book called The Psychology of Money. And in the book, Morgan Housel says, volatility is a fee, not a fine. Fees are something we pay to get something of value. So I can choose any service that I want and figure out what I want to pay. If I want a financial advisor, there's going to be a fee. I can choose which one. But I can't choose being in or out of the stock market, really. You kind of got to be in there. So how much do I want to be in there? And is the price of admission worth it to me? So let's talk about that a little bit, how much we want to use the stock market and what you see in different people and how they come in and where they land on that.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's pretty unusual to find a situation where someone should not have some portion of their assets in the market. And when we say that, we're saying we have a portion of our assets at risk. That's what it is, right? Now, it's how much risk do you want to take? You know, there's a whole conversation we can go down there about risk assessment and, you know, how much risk we take can be determined by what else we have set up and a bunch of things like that. But probably most people will have exposure to the markets. And it's a great point he brings up is, you know, a fee versus a fine. A fine is like, you know, a punishment you're not going to get really any sort of value from. The fee is typically a fee you're paying for a service or an advantage of some type. And the thing I would focus on mostly here is if you're going to pay a fee to be in the markets, to have potential growth that's going to come with volatility, don't compound that fee by making silly decisions when the volatility comes.
Okay.
Because that's where you end up compounding your fee. All right. Great example. I think I've shared this with you before. We had it. Well, he's not a client anymore because at this point we're just like, hey, look, we can't help you anymore. We're not the people for you. But this was back in April, right? Pretty scary time. Talk about volatility. Talk about early April, right? You know, 2 back-to-back 5% down days, and it's tough. It's tough to see that happen to your portfolio. And we had a client, and on the first day he calls in, and he's like, hey, like I can't take this anymore. Like I want to get half my portfolio out of the market. And we try and talk him out of it. Ultimately, he's the boss. All right, we're going to do that. Things kept progressing down. And on the 7th of April, he calls, and I talked to him personally, and he wants to get out of the markets fully. And I said to him, I was like, you know, I spent, I think it was an hour trying to talk him out of this. Hey, leave something. Like this is, you've got to stay in the markets to get, you know, the whole stuff we talk about all the time.
Sure.
He said, no, he's a nice guy. Like the guy a lot. But he is one of those guys that once he's made up his mind, right?
Okay.
It's going to happen. So, all right, you're the boss, bud. Like, we're going to do this. He gets out of the markets, 7th of April, okay? The 8th of April was the day that Trump paused the tariffs and the NASDAQ was up over 12%. Like the 3rd or 4th biggest up day in the history of the NASDAQ or something like that. He compounded his fee incredibly.
Yeah.
He's down $250,000 or so. And I don't know if he ended up getting back into the market after we parted ways. I'm not sure what he did, but he will never recover that money. So you're going to deal with volatility. That's the fee. Don't make it worse than it has to be by doing things like that.
And trying to figure out how much of your money, I mean, is it merely a percentage and saying, you know, 60-40, 40-60, 50-50, 30-70, whatever like that? Is that really the decision there?
No.
Is it that simple?
No, there's a lot more that goes into it than that. So you're talking about, you know, kind of what's the portfolio look like? But what we've got to talk about is what else is going on in our lives. Okay, you know, almost everybody has Social Security that's going to come in. All right, great, that's some guaranteed income. Do you have other guaranteed income in? Do you have a pension through a prior employer? Are you setting up some sort of additional guaranteed income through an outside party, right? Through an insurance company or something like that? Are you doing those sorts of things? Because if we have more protection in one bucket, if we have more guaranteed income coming in, you don't have to, but it gives you the flexibility to take more risk in the stock portfolio, in the market portfolio, because we have so much protection over here. Now, if someone comes to us and they say, look, I need $10,000 a month and my Social Security is $2,000. Well, that's a pretty big gap we've got to fill in. And no, I don't have a pension and I don't have any other sort of guaranteed income coming in. Well, guess what? We're going to be peeling off quite a bit of money from that portfolio every month. So can we afford to take that volatility to the same heights that we would have for the first person I described that has lots of guaranteed income? Probably not. It'd be against our advice for sure.
So if you're going to be that person, I mean, and we always warn against it, and everybody, there's all the sayings, time in the market, not timing the market, all that business. If you think that you see something coming like this guy did and said, get me out of the way, I don't want to get hit by this, you got to be right the second time too to get back in, and it's pretty tough to do that. You might get you might get lucky on the first one, but trying to get lucky on the second, the third, and the fourth is not too easy. Give us a call. Let's have that conversation about how much you want to use the stock market. Maybe you're very comfortable with it, and it's okay to go down 10%, and you've lived that way your whole working years, and you feel you can do that in your retirement. Okay. But you might also feel completely the opposite. I don't want any of that risk. I don't feel comfortable there at all. Let's find the happy place for you when it comes to that. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website, which is retire210.com. Pretty easy. Retire210.com. Place at the bottom of the page. You can put a little information in there. Then our team reaches out and says, how can we help? Let's sit down and have a conversation about what you're concerned about and just let it go from there. Or call us and bypass all that. 210-985-6200. 210-985-6200. Well, speaking of that, some things have been happening within the market and within stocks. And one of them is we talk about different places to get income in retirement. One of them is dividend-paying stocks. So it's a stock that gives you money. It pays you income. Well, just recently, Dow, that has a dividend, Dow, the chemical company, cut their dividend in half. So people were getting whatever, and now they're getting half of whatever. So is this something that happens regularly? Is it an isolated incident? What do you think about dividend-paying stocks? Is it worth it? It's not guaranteed, that's for sure.
Yeah, so dividends are essentially earnings from the company that they're paying out. And you as a stockholder, you're a part owner in the company, so you get some of the dividends, right? You get some of the profits, and that's what it is. Well, profits can be all over the place, right? And so I haven't dug into what's happening with Dow, but if you just follow the logical trail back, the business didn't make as much money, right? That's what happened. The business didn't make as much money, so they've got to cut the distribution that's going to the owners, the investors, all right? And this is something that comes up a lot because it's a popular topic for YouTubers and influencers and, oh, this is so easy. Just put this portfolio and this dividends and sit back and you don't have to worry about anything. If it was that easy, everybody would do it. All right. We can start with that. The other thing I see people doing is their expectation of what a dividend portfolio is going to pay out is pretty unrealistic. Okay. Because most of these things they're seeing on YouTube, they're seeing from influencers are, oh yeah, I just built my portfolio and I'm sitting back and I'm collecting 7 or 8% in dividends. Most stable, blue chip, established companies with lower volatility are not going to be paying a dividend anywhere near that. If you're looking at those 7, 8+% dividends, there should be some sort of kind of alarm bell going off in your head saying, wait a second, why is, no, I don't know what AT&T is paying right now, 4 or 5%, something like that. Why is AT&T paying 4 or 5%, but these guys who are running some oil wells or a real estate company or whatever it is are paying me 7 or 8? Well, maybe there's a bit more risk. Maybe that's what's happening, and that's why they're paying more dividends out to encourage people to invest with them so they can keep capital coming into the company. You've got to be smart with this. I talk about it a bit in my book, Wall Street's Game, is if you're looking at outsized returns, compared to what everybody else is getting or what is standard, there should be some alarm bells going off in your head. Okay, so that's the first part. The second part is, as far as for retirement income, most people want to set up their retirement income coming in something similar to what their paycheck was like, right? Most people got paid twice a month or every other week, right? Depending on where you worked. And that sort of stability is and usually like your bills are kind of cycled around that, right? Like, hey, I'm paying my mortgage with the first check and then it's my electricity and whatever with the next check. Well, dividends are somewhat all over the place. Some of them pay quarterly, some of them pay twice a year. They're not going to follow the cycle of your, if you want to call it, retirement paycheck. And I'm not saying they don't have a place. It's just, this is a very popular topic out there in the advisor or in the influencer YouTube space. And there's a bit more that goes into it.
Well, we would love to have the conversation with you. Where are you going to get income in retirement? And this is one place to explore, but it's not guaranteed because companies can move that dividend back. And that's something that you got to live with if you're going to play in that area. But it is certainly something worth talking about. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Let's talk through your retirement. Here's our website and here's our number. It's retire210.com. Give Jay a call. Let's talk about your retirement. Let's do some math here. Let's get you an idea of what you're in for. You know what you pay out per month right now. Kind of hard to figure out what you're going to pay out per month 10 years, 15, 20 years from now. But that's something that Jay does. We have to sit down and kind of forecast those numbers and figure out what you're up against. Retire210.com or 210-985-6200. 210-985-6200. And remember to have this podcast delivered straight to your favorite podcast platform by hitting like, follow, or the subscribe button. Thanks again for listening to Clear Skies Retirement, and we'll see you next time.
Investment advisory services offered through investment advisory representatives at Secure Financial Management, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed are not designed nor intended to be applicable to any person's individual circumstances. It should not be considered as investment advice, nor does it constitute a recommendation that anyone engage in or refrain from a particular course of action. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate, and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Secure Financial Management is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Secure Financial Management is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Wholesalers Insurance. Jamin J. Kirkwood, Texas Insurance License number 1421850.